Your Excellencies, Madame Tatiana Valovaya, UNOC Director General, Monsieur Zohrab Pololikashvili, UNWTO Secretary General, distinguished guests, friends, welcome to Geneva's UN headquarters. In a world grappling with polycrisis, the imperative to confront the climate emergency, particularly the transition to a net zero future, is increasingly important. A socio-economic transformation is essential to meet the climate goals of the Paris Agreement. Climate change stands as one of humanity's most significant challenges, necessitating a profound socio-economic shift. Scaling up climate finance is crucial for tangible impact. A science-based approach is essential to foster a climate-resilient economy that serves people, our planet, and prosperity. And I will add as well peace into the equation. Ambitions to achieve the 2030 Agenda and the climate goals by 2030 and 50 require a new global finance governance. This relies on the commitment of diverse stakeholders to unlock regulated carbon value, including blue carbon, and a shift towards valuing carbon sinks through circular business models. Amplifying development finance for impact is critical, involving international finance institutions, government, private companies, philanthropic entities, individuals, and an invigorated multilateral system. They are all pivotal for accelerating the implementation of countries' commitment in their nationally determined contributions. The World Tourism Organization, as part of the UN multilateral system, calls for a co-creation platform, and this is where we stand for today. We aim to advance United Nations' effort with the private sector and the civil society towards building a resilient and prosperous future on a healthy planet. UNWTO collaboration with NOAA region is a crucial first step in establishing an innovative architecture for climate action. Ahead of the UN Summit of the Future in 2024, today's event is a significant stride towards addressing climate change and fostering a regenerative and sustainable future. It aligns with the principles of the 2030 Agenda, the Paris Agreement, and the Addis Ababa Action Agenda, emphasizing collaboration among diverse stakeholders in this transformative journey. Now, I invite Ms. Tatiana Valovaya, Director General of United Nations Office at Geneva, to share her opening remarks. Madame, the floor is yours.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, it is a great pleasure to welcome you all at the Palais des Nations for this event marking the launch of two multi-stakeholder partnerships in climate finance, the UN NetZero Facility and the Replanet Capital Fund. I would like to warmly congratulate the United Nations World Tourism Organization and all its partners on such an ambitious and promising collaboration. Climate change is one of the most pressing challenges facing humanity today. This autumn only, we witnessed some devastating consequences of this global crisis. Extreme deadly floods in Libya, Greece, Bulgaria, and Turkey, unprecedented heat in Central South America, unparalleled wildfire season in Canada, and unfortunately many more events. The stark reality is that this September was the fourth consecutive month of the unprecedented heat during this year. These alarming events paint a grim picture of 2023, poised to become the hottest on record in history. We are headed towards 2.8 degree temperature rise, far above the 1.5 degree threshold spelled out in the Paris Agreement on climate change in 2015. Scientific reports are clear. The current rate of fossil fuel use is unsustainable. To attain the 1.5-degree target, countries, companies, and individuals should cut their emissions by half every decade until 2050. Even temporarily exceeding this warming level will result in severe impact, some of which will be long-lasting or irreversible. The situation is grave. However, as Secretary General Antonio Guterres noted in the Climate Ambition Summit in September, the future is not fixed. The 1.5-degree limit is still within our reach, provided we mobilize all our energies and resources to make it happen. The role of private sector in this endeavor is crucial. We have gathered today to celebrate two multi-stakeholder partnerships. The first one is a UN-WTO-led trust fund, UN NetZero facility, which will provide advisory services for a blended finance model for a climate-conscious economy. And the second one is Replanet Capital Fund Ecosystem Fund, which will unlock capacity and provide financing for effective climate action of states with utilizing innovative tools and incomes. These two projects go further than environmental protection. For example, the UN NetZero facility is designed to boost the sector of green jobs, accelerate innovation, and promote gender equality. These ambitions resonate with the 2030 Agenda, which reflects the interconnectedness between human well-being and the health of the planet. I welcome these initiatives, which are the physical manifestation of the recommendations put forward by the Secretary General in his Climate Action Acceleration Agenda in March 2023. Multi-stakeholder cooperation is the lifeblood of International Geneva. As a multilateral hub and world-renowned financial center, Geneva is the perfect ecosystem to connect finance and the SDGs. Over the past years, the SDG Lab in my office has played an instrumental role in bringing together finance and sustainable development communities to drive more capital to the SDGs at country level, including through Building Bridges Week. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, everyone has a role to play in the realization of 2030 Agenda and its central promise of leaving no one behind. But it is only by working together in Geneva and across the world that we can make our planet more sustainable for present and future generations. Our actions today shape how our children will adapt to mounting climate risks tomorrow, because at the end, without nature, we as humans cannot exist. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam, for your enlightening words. And we are in the right place, as you said, in Geneva, putting together finance and sustainable development. I have now the great pleasure to welcome Mr. Zurab Pololikashvili, Secretary General of the World Tourism Organization, for his keynote address.
Bonjour à tous. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, sorry to make you wait a little bit. It was mentioned many times by the United Nations needs reforms. This kind of discipline, I think, make all of us to be a little bit late. I'm very happy to be here. I'm very excited because this is historical moment for our organization. We're first time organizing this kind of event here in Geneva, and I want to thank to our General Director of the United Nations here in Geneva, Ms. Tatiana, to hosting us, to give us possibility to be here together. I want to greet all our ambassadors, friends, colleagues, private sector, students. I came just with them now, and it's very important because when you are going to Geneva, I'm coming from New York, by the way, from the CEB meeting. CEB meeting is a meeting of heads of United Nations heads. Coming from here, from there here, everyone here in this building there are thinking how to change the planet, and everyone has the ambition to change the planet and make some historical things. But talking about students, the first where we see the future is the new generation and education. We are focused, and we are very, very focused and investing a lot in students and new generation, because they have to know and they have to learn the mistakes which we had. For example, me, I never heard about the climate change in my school, or heard about some steps I have to make when I'm traveling, and I will talk more about tourism because this is our business, and I'm very thankful again to have here all of you with us. Now, what is happening today? Today we have an important event, and my good colleagues will present the vision, what we are doing, how we are going to. We also have ambition to change the planet and to change the world, but for that we have to act. And to act, we have some guidelines, some ideas, and we wanted to share with you, and then to execute them and to act. First of all, I want to thank to Frederick, also my special advisor. Until now, I was following his advices, and I think we came at the right place. We are with you. He put on the board very important professionals, very important people who knows more about these actions and this business than I know, honestly. I want to thank, and without private sector, it's impossible to talk about something on anything, to Mr. George Cohen and his family, who was the first who, first of all, when you do something, you have to trust in it, and you have to believe it. And he believed. And he was, from the beginning, when we started talking about this idea, to support and to put on the board important people, important friends. And he himself was 24 hours working with our team. And the pandemic showed us that united us, we are stronger, and we can do things, and we can make it happen. So, of course, many thanks to my team, Zorica, you know, all of you, you know them. I don't want to mention everyone, but all of you to be here. So, I think today it's an opportunity to talk, to act, and to realize what we want to do and what we want to achieve, and we are in the very right moment. Why? Because in next 10 days we all will be, I don't know if I will have power to go to COP, but COP is very important this year in Dubai, and there will be some very big announcements, many decisions made, and I think we are on the very good place with strong partners, timely meeting we have to prepare COP and to then to continue this process, which is long. In one day, it's impossible to change climate or to plant trees. It needs at least to get the. I'm from wine producer country. To have a wine, you need to wait 7 years at least. So it's the same. You know, we need to work together. We have to invest. We have to support new generation to learn, and it will be like back work, which will give us the results in next long-term and long-run period. So many thanks to all of you. Tourism is back very fast. I'm very ready as never because I'm coming from our General Assembly and can report to you in 1 minute that the numbers are coming back. We are already 75 to 85% by regions. We are talking about the same numbers as it was in 2018 and 19, and it was the best year in the tourism industry. In 2023, the results will be around 85%. I will not bother your golden time with talking about region by region, but average 85% means 1 billion international visitors worldwide. I want to remind you that in 2018 and 19 it was 1.3, 1 billion. It's not bad. The planes are full, hotels are full. The prices, this is another challenge, are quite increasing. We're talking about 30% of increase of prices because of oil, because of markets changed, because of these conflicts and wars all around, and China was closed until February this year. So these big changes we see in the results, but again, we are talking about 1 billion tourists, which can be taught and can be supported to change the ways of their travels. And this is what can a little bit help to better the planet and better the nature and better the cultural heritage we are talking about. So I will leave the floor to our colleagues to continue. I wish you success, a fruitful conference or meeting, or how do we call it? I don't know it, but this is first time. First time everything is difficult, but I'm sure that it's not last time. And we are very happy to have such kind of attendance, such kind of good friends. And I hope that we can do something with these big ambitious people to change a little bit and to make this planet a little bit better as it is now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Secretary General. I hear you, and we hear you. I think that investing in people, and which are going to be the catalyst for change, is really the key. I will now leave you in the capable hand of Mr. Paul Valenitovici, Corporate Development Director at NOAA and coordinator of the Replanet Capital's fundraising activities. Paul brings a wealth of experience and passion to the table, having worked more than 20 years in international mergers and acquisitions, based in Brussels, fluent in 7 languages, and having 3 kids. And this is certainly the reason why you are caring deeply on the future to build a healthy planet. Please welcome our chair and moderator for today, Paul Valentinovic.
Ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, I'm deeply honored to welcome our honorable guests, Ms. Tatiana Valovaya, UNOC Director General, Mr. Zurab Pololikashvili, UNWTO Secretary General, and of course, His Excellency, the Permanent Representative of Grenada, Mr. George Cohen. Ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen. It was last January when I visited the World Economic Forum in Davos, and I met the CEO, the Frédéric de Grey of NOAA. It took me just 48 hours to decide to move on and jump on that plane to Madrid to see the ceremony of Frédéric de Grey being assigned the role of Special Advisor for Oceans and Climate Actions at the UNWTO. Of course, coming from mergers and acquisitions, it's not really I was not really aware of the situation we are going through as humanity, as the globe. I did not really know what is the level of disruption human race has created to the world, to our planet. And I understood stories about the last year's record heat waves, record drought in Amazonia area, rivers purely, clearly dying out, main rivers of the world. At the same time, huge floods in Pakistan, together with record low of Antarctic sea ice, while having wildfires all over the world. So I was thinking, is it possible to reverse, influence this change? And how much money it would cost to get that done? And if the change is already irreversible or not? I understood the change is reversible, which is a good sign, and we have just a few years to get there, which basically is my conclusion and the research conclusion, and NOAA conclusion is, if we are able to restore ocean biology and regenerate coastal areas, recreating the biggest carbon sink, which is the ocean, if we are able to protect restoration of the rainforest, if we are able to transition millions of hectares into open land forestry and agroforestry, is it possible? It is possible. So today, we'll try to explain NOAA's ecosystem. We will try to explain how we are going to do that, how we are able to attract massive global funding to make this change reverse, to change that in order to really use these few years and come to the history as those who helped us to survive as a human race. So you'd be quite interested how we are going to do that. And of course, it would not be possible without our next speaker, who basically is the person and the brain and the engine behind NOAA. He is also a French alpine skiing champion. He basically is a maritime engineer, naval engineer, maritime scientist, who basically spent the last 7 years on getting NOAA done, getting NOAA to that very moment we are now at. 7 years of work, not only of the person who is going to address in a very few seconds, but also the whole team, dozens of people spread it throughout Europe mainly, expanding towards the rest of the globe on the global projects. So let me introduce the first speaker of the event, Mr. Frédéric Degré, who will show how these groundbreaking opportunities in nature-based assets are going to be unlocked, how we are able to unlock countries' potential and bring them to the next level, not only at the level of carbon, but also at the level of the communities, local communities, and indigenous people living there. Has never been there till now. Mr. Frédéric Degré, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Paul, for the introduction. So, Excellencies, UNWTO Secretary General Zurab Pololikashvili, UNOG Director General Tatiana, Excellency Ambassador George Cohen, ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We are so happy having you joining us for that historical day. We hope it's going to make history for the launch of that Replanet ecosystem, including the UN NetZero facility. But before going into the detail, I'm going to explain a bit the storytelling behind it, how all of it started. Back in 2000, how it came from a dream to impact at global scale our planet to that launch today, 7 years. I've been invited and honored to be there back in 2017 by Baroness Patricia Scotland, the Secretary General of Commonwealth of Nations, which represents 56 nations. She decided to help countries structuring a climate action plan. So she put together in Marbella House 3 groups of individuals. The first group was the representative of the financial world. The second group was the politicians, and the third group, experts. So I've been participating with my hat of experts in ocean regeneration and climate regeneration. What I've learned there is, first, the financial representative, which were CEO of banks, CEO of big pension funds, CEO of private equity funds, NGOs, and public financial institutions all together. They were explaining that they have access to trillions of dollars to invest into the game. But to make it happen, they were asking for a new model. The first thing they were asking us is to bring concrete business model behind impact, or vice versa, to bring impact to business models, okay? So they cannot save humanity, because we're talking about saving humanity, with philanthropy. We need to go unlocking the private capital at scale, and for this, it needs to rely on concrete business model. This is the first line of their demands. The second one was all about de-risking. If we take the example of a project which costs, let's say, $100, the risk is the first $20 that nobody wants to fund. Pension funds cannot jump in because they cannot risk the pension of their citizen. So how we can fill that gap to fund those $21, and then the 80 remaining, the private equity is super interested to participate and to multiplicate 5 times the investment as soon as it's de-risked. So basically, they were asking to set up a blended financial platform with at-scale capability to raise the technical assistance, the pre-seed, the seed that is needed for the setup of project. The third point they were addressing is the need to set up big pipelines of projects. They cannot invest trillions with project of 100K here, 500K there, 2 million there. So they were asking for big pipelines of project. And last but not least, they told, we're not experts of impact measurement. You need to address framework, a toolkit to understand the metrics, how to understand and measure properly the impact. So basically, this was the DNA of a new model, of a new disruptive mechanism that we decided to start 7 years ago. The second group was the politic people, the head of states. And they were all asking for a holistic toolkit to help them reaching their commitments to the Paris Agreement. They have, most of the time, no idea how to get there. So they have been signing and committing their countries, and they are far away able to reach their commitments. So how to help them with best practices and an entire toolkit, step by step, to help them going into that direction. And the third group was the experts. Experts was all the opposite. They were telling, we have disruptive project, we have the ability to start funding the transition, helping for adaptation, mitigation, and regeneration. We have very interesting project, but we don't get access to the capital. So it's like the chicken and the egg. So the idea behind NOAA was this. We started with a white copy, and we decided to create NOAA, which is Network of Ocean Ambassador Headquarters. The full name is NOAA Region for regeneration. So we have started to think about regenerative mechanism. And we decided to focus first on oceans, because ocean is the key to make the change. It's 71% of Earth, but it's related to 95% of the biosphere. So without moving to help regenerating the oceans, the game is over. Oceans are absorbing a third of the heat, producing most of the oxygen, absorbing most of the carbon, and now they are completely dying. We need to restore them. It's not anymore able to just trying to conserve. We need to go beyond this. And the idea behind was to bring concrete, real business model to that blue economy, which is now the most important potential for blue growth, for the global economy growth, and in the same time, the most important factor for impacting a global scale. So that was the vision behind NOAA. I'd like to have a slide, yeah. No, not this one, if you can go for the, yeah, this one. So it's all started there, how to structure the proper ecosystem to make it happen. So we have created NOAA as a group, and we decided to invest first into a subsidiary that we have created, which is a research and development company called Blue Carbon Lab. The bet here, our vision was how we can unlock the blue carbon potential. We're talking about a virgin market. It's the largest potential carbon credit market, and nobody was able to touch it because of lack of technology. So my colleague here will be talking a bit more about the technology, but we've been betting on that ability, and we're talking about a potential of dozens of billion annual, which can make a difference. The way we're going to unlock it, the way we're going to reinvest it, can make a big difference. So Blue Carbon Lab has been the first part of the ecosystem, and behind it, we have developed a digital platform to trace, trade, to bring quality behind those credits, to bring trustability, which the market needs. The second part, because of the very impressive development of Blue Carbon Lab, few years ago, countries started to come to us and say, how can you help us reaching new revenue sources which are no debt nor equity if we protect our exclusive economic zones? So exclusive economic zones are oceans. They're spaces that they can protect and how they can get carbon credit out of it, so blue carbon. The first country who jumped in was Panama. So we've been signing a contract with Panama to unlock their blue carbon markets. Panama now is known as the climate leader. They are far beyond carbon neutrality. They are far beyond the 30 by 30, and they have been adopting a decree. Recently, it was announced the 3rd of March to protect 54% of their entire exclusive economic zones, which basically represents certainly 10 times the size of the country. Out of it, we're going to get them a crazy amount of annual carbon credits that they're going to be able to reinvest to unlock their transition. The second country who came in was Antigua and Barbuda, which is a very interesting pilot for us because they are a tiny island. They have no green carbon, but a potential very huge blue carbon, which make it game-changing for them. So Antigua and Barbuda is also a very interesting country for us because this is a pilot country for Commonwealth. So with the possibility to scale up with the 56 countries, and it's also a pilot country for the small island states. Then we've been signing another contract with FLAGMA, which is the Federation of Latin America. Municipalities gathering about 16,000 municipalities in the entire Latin America. So we have decided to set up a subsidiary, NOAA Region LATAM, based in Panama. The third initiative was funds. So we're talking about blended finance. We're going to go deeper after, but one of the tools is private equity. So we have set up inside the Replanet ecosystem, the Replanet Capital, which is today a RAIF, Reserve Alternative Investment Fund, registered in Luxembourg. And it's going to operate as an umbrella fund with different sub-funds able to bring the scalability and unlock the private equity for the game. Can you change the slide? So this is basically what it's inside the Replanet ecosystem. So it's an holistic open source toolkit ready to use, ready to generate the global impact, to start at least generating it. So we're talking about acting. So first tool is the UN NetZero facility, led by UNWTO, which is a value chain which is super important for this revolution because UNWTO represents 10% of the global GDP, 60% of the blue economy, and 8% of the global emission of carbon. So no revolution without mobilizing such a powerful value chain. They have the ability to address offsetting symbolic compensation directly on to the customers, 1 billion, we've been talking about 1 billion, that can make a difference as grants. Then, for sure, private equity funds, Replanet Capital, which needs a general partner. We're now having a partner also, David is going to talk later, for technical assistance mechanism. So we are going to be host certainly inside catalytic funding foundations with the Replanet Foundation to channel philanthropic funds and other tools to manage all of it, including Blue Carbon Lab for technologies. Okay, so we are in the don't look up concept now. It's the tool which is ready, and today, unfortunately, seems to be the first and the only one able to go for global impact. So you're all invited to join forces. So I'm going to bring...
Thank you very much, Frederick. Thank you for explaining the structure and how we want to tackle it. Before the next speaker is going basically to understand correctly the toolkit and how we can unlock the nature-based assets, we need to get into the tech. Don't worry, there will be not too much tech in here, just a few lines, just to give you a little bit of glimpse on what the technology we gathered throughout the last 7 years is able to do and how we can use the tech in order to unlock the sovereign nature-based assets of the countries. In front of you, I would like to introduce a highly experienced engineer and business professional. He demonstrates strong emphasis on efficient engineering practices and decision-making. He is also currently a chief Blue Carbon Methodology R&D at the Blue Carbon Lab, NOAA's Blue Carbon Lab. Ladies and gentlemen, José Juan Aracil.
Thank you, Paul. Good afternoon. Thank you all, authorities, excellencies, for having me today. And well, first of all, I want to, after hearing my colleagues, I want to explain that what we are in Blue Carbon Lab addressed as a first thing to be done is to have a way of measuring. We need to have a reliable way of measuring in order to be able to be trustworthy against the components that we are trying to put together. So, well, basically being an engineer and heart and soul makes me sloppy in this kind of event, so I hope you all forgive me. And if we can pass to the presentation, please. Okay. Okay. So, quantitative, one back, quantitative approach for carbon stock. Why we say quantitative? We say quantitative because we want to measure it all. We don't want to have a partial result that has to be extrapolated in order to achieve a number that we all want. We need to measure it all, and we need to be able to measure it recurrently in several occasions throughout time, because that will be the only way to have a good metric of how our projects are working out. And for this, the only economically efficient way of doing it is by using something which is probably, some of you may have heard about it, is called, we call it SDAIC, but basically it's underwater remote sensing. So, what is underwater remote sensing? And remote sensing is basically a toolbox. It's a toolbox that allows us to analyze profoundly now a commonly available resource, which are satellite images. Satellite images has the particularity of being multispectral, which means basically that instead of one picture, we have several, up to 8 pictures on different light bandwidths. When we do this bandwidth analysis, we are able to add them, subtract them, do several mathematical procedures with them, which allow us to enhance what we are looking for, okay? And in this case, what we are looking for is the seagrass or biological activity below water. This is what we do. So to achieve this, let's think about an overall general process. We need to define an AOI, which is an area of interest that can be the size of 300 square kilometers, like in the case of Antigua and Barbuda. And we need to define a time range, that is a date range in which we are going to look for these images. And we need to define a ground of truth, which is actually what we are going to compare our results against. And it's going to provide us with the accuracy or score that we are wanting to assess. Okay, so with this part, what we do is we search for the images, we classify, enhance them, and refine them to the point in which, using several mathematical tools, that is not, I'm not going to explain all of them, but basically in order to have this image, after which what we do is we use these remote sensing tools, which basically are AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, pre-learned models in which we teach the computer to identify certain patterns on that image that will allow us to make a profile of what we consider to be the seabed substrates, like seagrass or any other thing. This is what is represented here, and we do that by, I'm trying to explain here and then. So at the end, we get the results, which are a triad of things, basically vectorized images, metadata, and models. All of that is what is going to be the outcome of the system that is going to be transparently available to all the players on whatever we are analyzing, project managers, project developers, whatever. Of course, these results can be looked at from several points of view, from APIs, from web apps or reporting tools that can make the full process very straightforward. So now we go into the a couple of science significant achievements. There is no groundbreaking truths that we have been discovered. All we have done is basically injected up-to-date technologies and known technologies into this, which we can, I would say, reduce to identifying underwater greens. That is what we are doing. We are classifying greens below water, and there are 32 million of them, to the point in which we are able to detect this biological activity. It's important to understand that the way we are dealing with this is not in a mainstream way, which is used to identify several things in now remote sensing science, but we are trying to do that focused mainly and uniquely in underwater sightseeing or underwater watching. Okay, so there is also, this will lead us to ability of classifying quantitatively, meaning everything is being measured, and in an iterative way that can only improve its accuracy a long time. Econometric significant achievement. Basically, the greatness of this technology is that it can be placed everywhere at a very good price. The way of being able to recurrently analyze these meadows is of key importance to be able to measure how the project is working out. If we're not able to see the progress in any or the effects of any of the funded projects, we are not going to be able to convince the players of how to best invest into this or that project. So we have a controllable data environment in a complete ecosystem with a high reduction of the cost of understanding what is happening. Let me just show you, trying not to be very deep, what we do. This is an image of Formentera, with basically I want to talk about this because this is how all started. I started in working for with a couple of friends in a foundation trying to protect the shores of Formentera Island, which is below Ibiza. And well, we did a LiDAR and a lateral beam sonar scan, trying to identify where the meadows were in order to be able to position them in a map and try to, to avoid anchorage and ships dropping their anchors on them. And it quickly came up to this situation in which we were far too expensive in doing so. So this is where satellite comes into place. So this is a picture that you can see here in which this is a filtered multispectral image. There are 8 pictures, one in front of the other in this picture. From this, what we do is we pre-process, which is what you see. Then we start declassifying with the AI processing tools. This provides us with a 1 by 1 meter resolution identification of where we have seagrass and when we don't. And then we have the ability also to further refine this model into something a little bit more accurate in terms of density determination of how much grass we have below. This is what we call the pixel-based approach. Pixel-based approach means only that every pixel is a single entity, not connected to the rest of the other pixels around it. There is another technology we are currently working on, which is called object-based image analysis, that we're using in Barbuda, in which what we do is the same thing, but before that we clusterize the image into superpixels. We call them superpixels. Basically, this is just an aggregation of pixels which have something in common. So we end up having this kind of image in which we have areas that have something in common. And from that point of view, we start the analysis. So now we not only have the color, but we also have the size, the shape, the textures, the boundary conditions, several other variables that help us in the better determination of how this works, to end up in the same kind of classification which allow us to determine what is dense seagrass, not so dense seagrass, depending on where we set the limit, and other kind of substrates. So, summary. I was told to keep it short. I try my best. Hopefully I have succeeded. But basically, by what we can see here is that we have the ability of have a stock evolution. We are able to measure the evolution of the carbon stock throughout time, and in a way in which the accuracy is only going to improve with time, because we are measuring it all, and we are measuring it all always with the same measuring line. So if the measuring line is always the same and we measure everything, we are not tricking ourselves, which is one of the key points of a lot of this technology is being used for carbon measuring, stock measuring. Second thing, we can escalate very, very quickly. There are loads of constellations, a lot of images, and that is only tenfolding by the year as more and more satellites are being thrown. So the scalability and the data available is only going to increase and improve, and is also doing it at a very low price. So at the end, what we have is an efficient way of measuring the carbon stock. In an accurate way and with high transparency, which makes the technology what is something I think it's very needed in this kind of ecosystems, especially now with the last events in last couple of months, 4 or 5 months, is having a trustworthy system, which is key for when you're talking about money and funding and private sector. And well, this is, we don't have time, but it's already a web app that is available to actually check results in Antigua and Barbuda. Questions, and hope I've not been so long.
José Juan, thank you very much. Muchas gracias. I'm quite impressed to see how this technology, pixel-based, AI-driven tools, which are efficient, accurate, and transparent, and most importantly, measurable, are able to take over and, in a scalable way, cheaply move to other geographies and do the same. So Antigua and Barbuda, I understand, is one of the topics, which also, I believe, the next speaker, Antoine Herves, based in France, has been working in the blue economy space for 10 years, shifting between ocean literacy and ocean conservation. Over the years, he has developed particular interest in using knowledge and data. Data, again, it's very much data-driven thing, I suppose, to help increase understanding of oceans. Last year, he joined NOAA to help define a framework to support nations and conservation projects and generate the new revenues. Again, we're coming back to the new revenues for countries and for the new regenerative actions. Thank you very much. José, Antoine, Herves.
Thank you. Can we put the slides on? Perfect. Good afternoon, everyone, distinguished delegates, distinguished guests. Did you know that 350 million people today rely on forests for their own livelihoods, which surpasses the population of the United States? And going beyond land, over 3 billion people, predominantly in developing countries, rely on the oceans for their livelihoods. These figures are not just statistics. They underline the intrinsic relationship that we have between humanity and nature that's been here for centuries. And our discussion today, even though we're focusing on carbon sequestration, on sustainable finance, the goal is to go beyond policy and go beyond economics and see exactly how we can build models that can protect these ecosystems that support billions of lives today. And I'm here to explain how NOAA can accompany states in building that mindset and consolidating that bond. So before jumping directly into the subject, I think it's important to understand that over the recent years, there's been a call to action to push conservation on all levels. The Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework recently announced that they want to protect 30% of land and ocean in the upcoming years, which is a considerable step. The oceans themselves, often completely misregarded, are today at the center of all climate debate because of their key role in climate change. And as well, we're going beyond carbon, studying now methane, looking into biodiversity, nitrogen, phosphorus, and studying the world as an ecosystem service rather than a simple metric. However, today conservation models can be very insufficient and will not necessarily answer to the demands and the objectives set up by international treaties. A lot of these projects are very reliant on philanthropy, which is good for a start, but unfortunately in periods of crisis can create a lot of risk for those projects. Secondly, with limited funding, it's very hard for them to provide the necessary monitoring and the necessary data to have that transparency on the impact which the finance sector has been looking for very keenly. Thirdly, a lot of these projects are developing traditional methods of conservation, which unfortunately do not have the potential to overcome climate change. One of the most notable examples is coral reef restoration, where sometimes the corals bleach even before they reach maturity. And finally, a lot of these areas at risk, these very valuable ecosystems, are an area with limited infrastructure, very poor financial resources, and human resources. So today we need to embrace a more holistic perspective on a nation's natural capital, and most notably on their blue assets. On one side, we need to rally and incorporate corporations into the dialogue around conservation. Integrate entrepreneurs who can bring innovation to help conservation be more efficient, and on the other end, bring the large corporations to integrate conservation directly into their supply chains. On the other hand, we need to help and push finance to push the right mechanisms forward in order to build on the ecosystem services to help generate new revenue streams around conservation and not be reliant entirely on philanthropy. So NOAA and our ecosystem can definitely help and support the nations in their net zero strategy. And our vision is around 4 main points. The first one is a top-bottom approach. We definitely need the support of the governments in order to establish a long-term, and I underline the long-term, strategy on conservation and a pursuance of reducing of carbon emissions. Secondly, and at the same time, we want a bottom-up approach. The buy-in of the local communities is essential in the success of any conservation project. They're on the ground, they understand those areas more than anyone else, and they absolutely need to understand how the system is going to work. Thirdly, transversality. To have a new regeneration system, we need to break conventional silos around conservation, link industries together, and make those effective bridges that are today reducing the impact of conservation. And finally, transparency. We need more impact metrics. We need to understand those metrics in order to help de-risk conservation and bring new forms of finance directly into the market. So now I'm going to explain a bit how the NOAA and the Replanet ecosystem works. So the first step is when we have a project is the nation comes and we try to establish a framework with them on how we can implement a long-term strategy around maritime or land protection. At this point afterwards, we have Blue Carbon Labs, which will go directly work with the local stakeholders, identify the challenges, identify an area of interest, as José was mentioning, and from there we develop what we call a PDD, a project design document. From this point, we can start the implementation of the project. So the first part is doing the evaluations, as José recently explained. So the carbon potential, the biodiversity potential, establishing all the financial opportunities around conservation as well, especially if you're working in marine protected areas, and so on and so forth. When this project is implemented, the goal is afterwards to plug it in the Replanet digital platform. Here, thanks to composite indicators, our goal is to index each of these projects through SDG metrics, carbon metrics, and also ecosystem service metrics, so that the financial sector and the institutions can clearly understand what are the real benefits of these kind of projects. In addition, this platform will also provide a token for each project through blockchain in order to secure those, and when we have the generation of the carbon credits that come afterwards, we have trustable solutions that can actually create the impact that we're looking for. In parallel, we have 3 financial vehicles that aim to support conservation in different ways. Replanet Fund, with their goal of leveraging private capital in order to finance entrepreneurship in the areas of carbon and conservation. Secondly, the UN NetZero facility, which has the goal of leveraging public funding to de-risk, as Fred was mentioning, the initial investments around conservation. And finally, Replanet Foundation, that's going to leverage philanthropic money in order to do that initial investment also that can be very difficult to make in the initial stages. So this ecosystem provides a lot of benefits for countries. First of all, countries can see nature not as a cost, but now as an asset for growth. Secondly, it provides new economic sectors, especially for island states that are extremely dependent on tourism, who can now go into energy, infrastructure, or even producing certain ingredients, and I'll come back to that with Antigua. Thirdly, it's a win-win-win collaboration between nature, government, and communities. And finally, it is a positive contribution to the NDCs, whether we're talking about carbon emission reduction or conservation of local ecosystems. So as we were already saying, one of our pilot projects is in Antigua and Barbuda. For the past year, my team and I have been discussing with various local stakeholders, trying to understand what the challenges were, what were the key areas to really work on. And from there, we have identified one geographic location, an area of interest in the Northeast Marine Management Area, which is the biggest marine protected area of the region. Our goal here is to explore how we can push conservation and link it to tourism, fishing, pollution as well, because we're exploring how we can exploit the plastic pollution and also the sargassum bloom pollution into an economic opportunity to really provide a sound financial strategy around conservation in the region. The project is expected to start next year in Q1 if everything goes as planned. Why did we choose Antigua? So it is a very small country that necessarily doesn't ring a bell. However, they have very valuable ecosystems at risk on both of those islands. And we really wanted to find a way to tackle and understand how we could protect those as soon as we could. Secondly, it's a country that already developed a national maritime blue economy strategy and showed their willingness to actually move forward in contributing to their NDCs and to the protection of their coastline and their ZEE. Thirdly, they have a considerable amount of local expertise, people that have been working on the ground for almost a decade in some cases, so that have a lot of rich expertise in exactly how we can move forward in the best ways as possible. And finally, Antigua is going to be the host of the SIDS4 Summit next year, and we would like to position them as one of the key examples for all the other SIDS to follow in the upcoming years. So thank you very much for your attention. Happy to keep this discussion going and seeing how we can call other countries and other projects to come on board and really create a community around conservation on a global scale. Thank you very much.
Antoine Herves from the Blue Carbon Lab. And both gentlemen are employees, parts of the Blue Carbon Lab. My first question, actually, when I'm listening to that and I'm trying to get into your shoes, what is this Blue Carbon Lab and why is this so crucial in the NOAA ecosystem, knowing there are several parts of the ecosystem, and through what kind of technologies are developed? On the top of that, just maybe one question to see if there is something else which we missed in the presentation. Maybe a question to Frédéric.
Okay, so yes, it has been a bit technical, but sorry for this. But just for you to well understand that now we have an ability to start unlocking the blue carbon at scale. So this is the largest opportunity of new revenue sources. If we start to scale up for the highland states and coastal territories, we can reach dozens of billions of value from that carbon and help the countries to reinvest it first loss, like the first $20 that needs to be invested in to unlock the private equity, to bring the bankability to their transition. So this is key if we want to go for global impact, because we're talking about a heavy potential of multi-dozens of billion a year. So that's the job that we've been doing with Blue Carbon Lab, and now we have that technologies that are mature to be scaled up.
Thank you very much for this input, Frederic. Let me, ladies and gentlemen, move from these data-driven, tech-driven presentations to a little bit more lighter topic. Is it a lighter topic connected to actually the UN NetZero facility, which is very often seen as one of the key elements in the whole game, and how a new aid for impact architecture can be used. You already saw our next speaker on the stage, Zorica Urošević, who is the UNWTO Executive Director since 2021. Her visionary leadership, combined with her extensive knowledge of trade and tourism, global governance and development cooperation has made her an invaluable asset to the organization UNWTO and a respected figure in the international community, not only in tourism and trade, but much broader. Thank you. I would like to give the stage and the mic to Zorica Urošević.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul. I think now you are going to challenge me with all these very nice words. Let's go back to our reality. We as a UN agency, our role is to really support the countries and the people of the countries, of course, in moving, can I have the change? To actually have better lives. Is it this one? Yep. Yes. Me too, I had a dream, and I think that when, thanks to Secretary General Zoran Polilikashvili, I met with Frédéric, it was just like an amazing momentum, because he comes from a sphere of science of the oceans, understanding the need of a massive financing and new sources of financing for carbon, through carbon. I had the dream as well to actually create a facility to help countries to actually have a massive shift in reducing their carbon footprint, but not looking at traditional financing, which is very thin. So the combination and the discussion I had in my imagination, I had a space called the Blue Bank, like the Blue Think Bank. And he had the bank, and I brought my picture, my one picture, and I say, this is what I need to plug, and this is what I'm going to share with you now. So we are speaking about a very particular sector. Tourism is an economic sector which is doing good for people and economies. It represents 4.2% of world GDP, 10% is direct and induced impacts added, which you mentioned, Frédéric, and it gives 1 out of 10 jobs. However, it is as well emitting 8% of world emissions. Climate, Secretary General mentioned it earlier, we are short of a gap for mitigating financing, about 300 billion. And what is carbon? Is the capacity, the carbon capture and sequestration are the values which we are talking about today and which we are going to rethink. Actually, we are going to try to see if we can capture values that are not today bankable. And that is where we are. I think we have reached the maturity stage in the world of science with what Noah is presenting, the capability to actually make the countries that are certainly the most dependent on tourism and the ones that have the less revenues, such as Ireland, which are islands are ocean economies, they are not land, they are oceans, to become actually capable of having a massive shift. As I just said, in 2019, we were the third export earning sector in the world after fuel and chemicals, and we dropped in 2021 to be the 9th, but we are raising again. Just few figures, just to illustrate where our emissions, this 8%, where do they stand? They stand almost for half for transport. And then on the right side, I made a short breakdown to see where do we emit the most, plane, cars, motorcycle, bus. But what is very interesting is the other half of the emission, or the other 4%, are a combination of the lodging, of food, of goods, of agriculture, services, and construction. So this is where we need to act. As much as earlier, Antoine, thank you very much. I mean, you had an amazing presentation. I'm just discovering it while we were going through. I think that it's crystal clear that regeneration is really the way forward. However, we need as well for us as a sector, and that is why we want to start with the sector, is because as we are trade, we are into processes, and these processes needs to be changed. So the circular business model is certainly the way forward besides the regeneration and the capacity to create carbon or to capture carbon. I just wanted to illustrate as well, I found it very interesting to see how much land is capturing carbon and how much oceans are capturing carbon. 10 times more. We said it. So I think here as well, we have to understand that we do need to care for the oceans, and this is why I think the blue carbon is certainly the future. Now, on this climate action basics, we know very well our sector. I mean, the sector is nothing without its operators, without the private sector, because it's the private sector that are creating the value processes which are leading to the carbon emissions, but as well creating livelihoods. So the balance is very fragile. We need to look at understanding better climate action. This is what we need to do as an organization. We need to help countries and policymakers to shift into the right policies and business models to adopt new business models, understanding overall what is carbon and what is carbon trading and what is the opportunity. I tried to figure it out in one nutshell, and what we tried to do. We want to increase profit, competitiveness, sustainability, brand value, and jobs, because there is no private sector company that is going to enter into the picture if there is not more profit and more competitiveness, because the sense of the business, and it is good, that while we are reducing carbon, we are increasing value. And that is certainly one of the key messages we need to understand. Now, as the system is very complex and the value chain of the sector goes from transport, services, accommodation, excursion, biodiversity site, national parks, you name it, we need to have an integrated model. And that is why we are working towards an integrated model with the UN system. For people, because we need more green jobs, more livelihood, a healthy society and better heritage, prosperity to generate revenue and capacity, to net positive growth and climate governance, and for the planet, exactly what you said, a regenerative future, but as well a better use of water, of energy, a better management of waste, and all this has to do with circularity. On the one side, it touches upon the Kunming Declaration and the biodiversity in which we are very involved, which is related to biodiversity, because we are now using natural resources to actually process and have a tourism capacity to handle and to offer and to attract. And on the other hand, we have the capacity as well to regenerate. So we need to unlock a climate economy based on science, and this is what we are really heading at. So decarbonizing, regenerating, and collaborating on the one hand, but as well we need to measure and to finance, and that is where the bottleneck is. In 2020, 21, Secretary General launched at the COP26, the Glasgow Declaration for Tourism Climate Action. Since then, we have been having more than 800 signatories which have subscribed to this commitment to measure, decarbonize, regenerate, finance more difficult, but at least to decarbonize and to regenerate. And in those 800, about 11 destinations, countries have signed off, but most of them are companies. And these numbers are growing because everybody understands that the business case is good for the planet and good for business. So what are we going to do, actually, in looking at the model? In finance, we need to innovate, and this is why we are sitting here together today, because we want to be part of the ecosystem, but we want to be part of the system and beyond. So innovative development finance, usually we have official development aid. I mean, many people sitting in the room know very well from developed and developing countries that official development aid is the critical resource of public funding which is allocated to countries. We need to go beyond that because this aid is shrinking, and we need to look at using, and even if we have that aid, we need to transform it into a blended model so that we de-risk any action and any capacity to attract additional investment, because the transformation will require huge investment. So basically, we will advise countries or businesses on what we need to do in a snapshot, and then come NOAA, but all other finance and structures that can support the transition. Decarbonizing, as I just said, circularity is key for businesses, and we need to look at creating new toolkits for SMEs, because 80% of the businesses are SMEs, providing advisory services and technical assistance, and my friend here next to me will explain more on some initiatives that are extremely inspiring, and guiding countries and businesses. And as well, of course, we need to regenerate. We know all of us how successful are certain property by the coastal area which are offering to the tourist not to only look and conserve the tortoise, the turtles, but as well replant coral, for example, or look at the biodiversity spots in the land, looking at conservation. So we want to look at not only saying that we reduce carbon footprint as an organization, because we have the capacity to do that, with, for example, with UNFCCC. What we are going to do is not only we say we reduce by so much, but we want this reduction to be accredited by the UNFCCC in carbon emission reductions value, which exists, and we will be working towards that. So overall, we need to have a measure, capacity, new metrics, which are a consensus and a standard, which are comparable with the new metrics, and we are advancing on that as a sector again. So how do we finance the UN NetZero facility? Grants and voluntary taxes. We said this is an option. We definitely know that the Replanet Capital Fund is going to transfer 2% of all the carbon that is going to be tokenized, but this is still not sufficient. I think we need to have the commitment of the individuals, for example, the tourists or the companies, to have a voluntary contribution. Minimal, but with the scale. And Secretary General mentioned we are back to 1 billion international tourists. I investigated in our intelligence teams. It represents about 3 billion of overnights, or 4.5 billion of passengers flights. So let's dream. Let's say that even 1% of these people are agreeable to contribute to that cause. We will still be having about 30 million per year for advisory services to de-risk investment, which is a good start. So decarbonizing, as I just said, implementation at scale. What we want to do is to leverage the capacity of the UN system, which is present in more than 130 countries, to be operationalized immediately. We have seen during the COVID, when we had about 90 countries calling us to help, because the country teams, the UN country teams, didn't know how to handle the stop of tourism, that when money came to the UN system, about 90 million at that time, in 2020, it was mobilized in 3 months, and it was delivered in 1.5 years, 18 months. So the UN system and the multilateral system has a massive capacity to scale, to act at scale. And that is where we bring, and that is what we bring on the table as well to be able to implement. Because once we will have a huge amount of resources, we need people to be able to activate. So this is a simple illustration. What we need to do in the balance, we need to be positive. We don't need to be net zero. So I would say that let's reduce carbon and create more sinks to be positive through technology, nature-based solution, blue and green carbon sinks. And here are the partners. Don't be afraid. It's I think, a place where we can get lost, but let's not be lost. This is the UN partners that we are intended to bring into the picture. We have already started to talk to them. Secretary General just briefed me a few days ago when he was in New York with all his head of agencies that some of them are very interested. So we have the UN, UNFCCC, Climate Agency, the UN Environment, UNDP, WIPO, FAO, UNCTAD, because we are a very complex and broad value chain, and we need all these people on board. When it comes to financing partners, the more traditional financing partners are going to be offered to be part of the ecosystem. They will be, I can say, obliged, entre guillemets, I don't know how to say in English, to actually give upfront advisory funding, and then they will be able to come and do and implement their own initiative and projects. And of course, all of this, I have put mostly government entities, but of course, big NGOs and civil society organizations are absolutely welcome, as well as a foundation to be part of the picture. And then when it comes to the public financing partners, let's say the development banks, they are as well going to be part of the ecosystem. But the most important is, I think, starting with Replanet Capital, and eventually companies and travelers which are committed because they see the urgency and they see the business value to engage and commit to climate action. This is how it was going to look like. The huge green box is the heart. This is the project sphere, which we are going to act on, and this is what we are going to do. On the left up red, these are the polluters, the payers are going to inject resources. And then on the climate action, we are not only going to limit ourselves to compensate with carbon sinks, because the beauty of the Replanet Capital, it's not only it's going to provide resources, but it's as well going to be able to provide massive carbon value and sinks, which do not exist today. Small trading company in carbon cannot provide such capacity. And besides, all projects will be traceable. So tomorrow, if you invest $1 in decarbonizing, you will be able to trace where your money goes. And this is the main problem why people are not doing it today. And then, of course, we are going to leverage with NOAA all the logos on public financing partners and implementing partners which are there should be in the box on the right side, unlock innovative financing. But I just didn't want to overdo on the slide. And here is where we fit. Oh, strange the color. We fit there as part of the ecosystem with the Replanet ecosystem, with the NetZero facility as being really the blended finance partner for de-risking investment. And where we stand today and what is our roadmap for the year to come, the alliance, we need to finalize it, mobilize international finance institutions and international development agencies, of course, promote to businesses and countries, and that's when we are going to be ready to have the facility operational with the third seed funding that is going to come. So we invite you with us.
Thank you very much, Ms. Urošević. Thank you, UNWTO, for this contribution. I think it's much more clear now why the UN NetZero facility is such an important part, crucial part of blended finance platform of NOAA region. I hope you see the power behind 4.5 billion travelers around the globe, which most probably might be feeling contributing to the making it better, and of course voluntarily. And of course you can see how important element this will be in the groundbreaking plans and goals and objectives NOAA has as such. Thank you very much for this presentation. There is certain elements to the whole game, which is not only the very important element we just mentioned, but there is a second element which is able to de-risk the projects, which the de-risking part is a very magic word to all private capital coming from London, Geneva, and Zurich, and around the world. That's something which really makes them talk to us much quicker and enable us to be in the rooms, in the meeting rooms. The second element, which we very much think it's a very important one, is the element of philanthropy. Please, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce the CEO of the Catalytic Finance Foundation, previously R20 Foundation, person who leads the efforts in setting up new blended financial vehicles dedicated to sustainable infrastructure and oversees technical assistance implementation from Catalytic. The technical assistance is a keyword here, and I would love to give the stage to David Albertani, Chief Executive Officer of Catalytic Finance Foundation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Paul, and thanks for the invite. It's always a privilege to be first here at the UN. I'm born and raised in Geneva, so it's always a privilege, and also to witness, the launch of NOAA. We've been talking about it for at least 5 years now, so congrats, Fred, and it's always great to be here. So maybe just to give one quick word. So indeed, I'm the CEO of the Catalytic Finance Foundation. We're based here in Geneva. We've been created in 2011 by former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger when he left office. And our mission has always been to support cities, regions around the world in identifying, developing, and financing their sustainable infrastructure. So everything that I will say, I'm always speaking about infrastructure. I really believe that, 90% of the investment community will go through infrastructure. So I always speak with this lens on infrastructure. So how do we do, our mission? So there is a first point, just to mention it. We indeed incubate investment vehicle. So 4 years ago, we launched our largest product, which is called the Subnational Climate Fund. It's a $750 million investment fund, out of which 150 million is coming from the Green Climate Fund as a concessional equity part. We also launched and sponsored the Global Fund for Coral Reef with UNEP, an adaptation fund called CRAFT with Lightseams Group, and more recently we worked with Mitsubishi Bank on a new adaptation fund called Gaia. And that effort today, we've just onboarded a new sponsor this year, and we're working very closely with Bloomberg Philanthropies to develop new investment vehicles dedicated to cities. And some of them can have also really link with the ocean and NOAA. So the second part that we do, and I think the most relevant here today, is really we deliver technical assistance services. And so this is really where I'm here today to also give, our perspective, how we did it and how we believe, technical assistance is important. And when you speak about de-risking, definitively there is the de-risking that's very obvious, very mathematical, to just add concessional capital in your capital stack, and of course you can, you have just first loss or concessional equity, whatever, but the first part is having bankable and sound projects. Most of the risk, especially in infrastructure, will lie in projects that are not designed well, that don't have all the legal documents set up well, that technically are not feasible. So being able to bring projects to a higher level of bankability upfront and using for that philanthropic or concessional money is definitively an amazing way to de-risk. And maybe here, and I fully agree with Fred's introduction, today in our world, if you invest in emerging and developing markets, you can have a clear mandate, billions of dollars, you will struggle to find proper deal. There is, and everyone is speaking about it, but it is a reality, there is still a lack of deal flow. And bankable deal flow is still lacking, and so this is really where also having capital stacks to be able to invest, having technical assistance on the side that can bring those deals to bankability is really needed. So just to give example, the largest technical assistance facility we execute today is the one for the Subnational Grant Fund. It's a 28 million grant facility. So the type of activity we cover, the first one is definitively project preparation, bringing those projects to bankability. And here we can fund, and I think it's the same when we discuss with also Replanet Foundation, pre-feasibility studies, feasibility studies, market assessment, legal framework, legal due diligence, ESIAs, ESMPs. And if we look at our activities in the past 4 years now, we've done around 44, we supported around 44 projects. And one would believe that the main type of support we would provide are highly technical engineers that will help design the facilities. But actually, if we really look at the pipeline, 90% of our activities has been non-technical in that sense. And most of the project needs strong support in the institutional setup. And what we see today, especially in emerging developing markets, is lots of projects that are technically sound and feasible, but they don't have the right authorization. They don't have the right framework. And so that's really something where we funded. Just want to give one example. We supported a project in Kita in Mali, so it's not really close to the ocean, sorry. It was a 50 megawatt solar plant, and technically perfect project. However, to do the power purchase agreement, there were lack of track record, lacks of blueprint. So we funded out of grant capital, lawyers that works with the grid utility ONE in Mali, that work with the project sponsor to come to a blueprint of what could be a PPA. Today, this project is constructed. We've been able to attract around 98 million of US dollar of investment. And this project has been even resold now to another asset owner. So it has been quite a success story. And this work we've been providing for the framework of what's a power purchase agreement, how it could look like in the framework of Mali, is now being replicated. So with a few projects in Senegal, in Bokol 1 and 2, where we've been involved too, and a few others that I hope will come in the next years. The second point where we see a massive gap is today the environmental and social requirement of international capital, pension funds and OCD investors are very high, and usually much higher than local ESIA frameworks. And so we see many sponsors, many projects coming to us, and they have a project bankable, to their words, that fulfill all the legal obligation of the host country. However, as in our capital stack, we have, for instance, the GCF, that those projects don't fully comply to GCF procurement and ESA standard. And there is always a question, who bears the cost of having an extra work on the ESS front if that's not necessary in your host legislation? And so this is where also with the technical assistance, we cover a lot of cost on that front. Just give one example in Mexico. This one is a very, it's a transaction we executed 3 months ago, so it's fairly new, on a solar panels framework on a company called Luxun. Again, technically very sound, all the authorization, but the ESIA, ESMPs were not up to the Green Climate Fund standard. So we funded all this work. It's around 200K of work altogether, but that unlocked 42 million of investment. And today, this company is deploying around 160 megawatt of solar on rooftops with companies in Mexico. So I have other example, but in the framework of NOAA, we're currently working on a coconut farm in Jamaica. I hope that in the coming month I can come here also to announce you a first close. And we're also working a lot in ecotourism. We've seen many countries who asked us, so currently we are looking at 2 transactions on ecotourism, one in Ecuador and one in the Bahamas, where we are currently deploying technical assistance. And those would be typically projects where we believe NOAA Capital could be then become an investor in those transactions. Second point, I won't expand too much because I see I'm already over time, but capacity building is still needed. Of course, it's great to do studies, but if we want to have a change that's long-lasting, we need to do more and more capacity building towards municipalities, ministries, and this is really also a task that we're happy to see that NOAA and Replanet Foundation wants to take. So here, example, we did capacity building on the waste sector in Algeria, in Oran. And thanks to those large capacity building efforts that took 4 years, today we have more and more sorting centers, composting plants, and waste-to-energy projects rather than the landfill model that was used in Algeria. So, long story short, we are a strong advocate as catalytic funders ourselves to the concept of technical assistance and blended finance model, and very happy to see and we've been discussing that in the NOAA ecosystem, there is this pocket for philanthropy and concessional capital that's not only going into the capital stack, but really here to create long-lasting change with capacity building, but also supporting the project preparation, because that's really today an element we believe it's always missing. And maybe a few success factors, because that was one of the asks. So definitively don't, TA is needed, as I said, and today if you look at international investors like the Green Climate Fund, now usually 5% of the total size of the fund is dedicated to technical assistance, and those numbers are ramping up. So we see, while executing those funds, when dealing in emerging and developing market, TA are becoming more and more important, and there is definitively this need. And one of the points that's very important, and I think linked to NOAA and why this size, we see a huge funnel effect. In order to get that deal that will get through, be built and deliver proper impact, you need to look at 10 deals. And I think this is really something that's a key factor. We need to have today a large bandwidth. We need to be able to look at thousands of deals if we want to find the ones that are the most impactful. And I think I will stop here because I see Paul looking at me. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. David Albertani, CEO of Catalytic Finance Foundation. I have just one question, just before you're done with your part, Davida. You clearly understand that philanthropy, together with a NetZero, UN NetZero facility, grant facility, is an important part of the de-risking projects and an important part of blended finance platform. But the question is to you, David, why would a philanthropic institution put money to a commercial project where finally Replanet Capital is a fund? We invest money over private and then we de-risk money with philanthropy. Why would they do that, and how you convince them to do that?
Sure, no, I think that's a very good question, and let's be very honest here. Not every single philanthropist will be convinced always. So of course, traditional philanthropies will be closer to, let's say, charity, and that's the business model that philanthropy is coming from. It is really giving, and then you, I don't know, you pay for a solar panel on a school and you take a nice picture in front of the school and the solar panel. And I think, let's be very honest, there is still a huge need for this type of philanthropy, and that's not a model that will disappear overnight. However, today what we see is more and more philanthropists that are looking at how to leverage their grants. And the key factor here is how to leverage, how to make more with the same amount. And here again, not to make the same with a smaller amount, it's how to make more with the same amount. And the only way you can leverage a grant is through additional private or public investment. And the only way you can do that is either coming into a capital stack and at concession level. And I have to say today, Bezos Earth Fund is thinking about those models, but I would say it's almost the only one. Otherwise, you get into technical assistance. So how you convince them? First, you show very high leverage, and that's really always one of the KPIs of those facilities. And second, as you rightly mentioned it, ultimately someone will make money out of those projects. So you need to have very strong process and procurement to make sure that basically the philanthropic donation is going towards strong KPIs that will be measured, and I mean SDG KPIs that will be measured, and there will be strong procurement and process along the road. And I think with those right model, today we can see Bloomberg Philanthropies, Rockefeller, and other many of the leading foundations of this world as taking more and more this route.
Lovely. Thank you very much for a very good answer. I would like to, at this moment, move to the next point here, which is the Replanet Capital Private Sector Fund. And this is actually one of the fundamentals of this event. So you must be eager to hear more how we are going to do that. What is the Replanet Capital and how is it going to be successful with all the objectives, very ambitious ones we have. First of all, let me introduce a short intro to that part of CEO of NOAA region, Mr. Frédéric Decret.
Okay, so this is it. So, yeah, we've been talking about different kind of investment sources. So, how to make it a new model and a disruptive one to go for global impact. So this is the goal, going for global impact, meaning having the capability to invest multiple billions every year into the transition. So the first part, we've been talking a lot about technical, new methodologies, satellites, imageries to unlock potential of nature-based assets, okay? So this green and blue carbon, the trustability that we can bring behind it, duplicating those credits into the blockchain to make them non-correctable and eliminating the double accounting, this kind of mechanism that have the ability to bring quite a significant amount, and here again, game changer for Highland states. So as they have no ability to, let's say, unlock this potential themselves, that they need to be supported by companies like we are doing now, we ask them to reinvest it into their own circular economies of the transition, so to be part of the bankability of their industries. So this first layer, which is quite significant, is combined with the UN NetZero. So we've been talking a bit about the UN NetZero, but if we go for the voluntary, let's say, voluntary contribution from the customers to offset their part of their impact, if we deal with $1 per airplane tickets, it's a 4-point-something billion a year that is doable. Nobody's going to stop flying for $1. If we do it with the hotel chain, $1 per night, here again, it's the multiplicator effect. The scalability is enormous to bring the second, let's say, de-risking mechanism into the game. The Replanet Foundation also is the tool to offer big donors, large philanthrops to bring scalability and leverage into their own investment. And then Replanet Capital comes into the game. As I've been giving an example of a project that needs 100 euros, the 21st is the part that nobody wants to fund. So this is here the carbon market that's going to be able to put those $20 alongside with the UN NetZero facility, alongside with the Replanet Foundation, all together to put those $20. So Replanet Capital with other private institutions have the ability to scale it up 5 times to put the 80% remaining. So this is basically the way we're going to coordinate all of those funds for going to global impact. So what makes that tool, that ecosystem, different from the existing financial tools? So the first one is grants and philanthropy to de-risk, to bring the technical assistance, to bring the first loss. The second one is the partnership strategically with UNWTO, which relate to the UN system with the ability to talk to all of the countries, to help on the ground to deploy the technical assistance. The third one is unleashing the power of sovereign nature-based credits. So we've been talking a lot about blue carbon, but it's not the only one. The fourth one is the ability with a digital platform to measure the SDGs going beyond carbon measurement with transparency and traceability. Then we're going to disclose the digital platform that we have set up, which operates like a marketplace, stock exchange, tokenization platform, which help people to use it as a service. And it's open source for anyone to come and plug his tool to the platform to make it evolve around the year. And the last one, which is important, is the ability to talk to governments and to bring a large-scale pipeline of investment projects. So not to go for 200 here, 200K here, 500K there. It's not doable to deploy such amount. So this is basically the way we're gonna start generating a global impact.
Thank you very much, Frederick. Thank you for this introduction to Replanet Capital. I promised you we have on the panel here in the front of us real investment bankers who have done it throughout their all professional careers, and even bigger honor to me that it's my countryman, Mr. Jakub Molski, who is an investment professional with a strong track record in financial services investments and retail banking transformation. He has held various positions in the financial industry, including Chief Corporate Development Officer at Omnio, Principal at AEDC Capital ATD in London. He is based in London for the last 20 years, and he is supporting us very closely in this journey from the investment perspective. Mr. Molski, please.
Thank you for this introduction, and thanks for mentioning all my sins. But we see that the time is running out for our Earth. At NOAA, we feel this urgency, and therefore we're launching a new product that is an investment product that allows investors to be part of the solution. And still benefit from the risk-return metrics that are unparalleled for the impact investment space. They will also benefit from the significant scale that our projects bring. The private sector fund is a central part of our system. Our team of experienced investment professionals is working to combine what is tried and tested and those solutions that can bring new levels of efficiency. Firstly, the auditability, transparency, and accountability of this system. The private sector fund is designed to set new benchmarks for impact investing. And those are achieved by firstly recognizing the recognized and compliant regulatory structure setup, where we are using a Luxembourg-based RIFE SICAF, so a regulated alternative investment fund, which is structured as an open-ended vehicle. This allows us to be very flexible in the choice of the investment asset classes that we can invest in, and allows us also to be scale under the cooperation and supervision of our regulated party, our AIFM, which is Lemanique. And the choice of partners is very important for this type of nascent fund. We're relying on some of the best-in-class partners, including CACEIS as our fund administrator and depository, Luther as our legal counsel, or as well Deloitte. Our compliance is significantly improved from anything that was previously seen in the impact space due to the quality of our platform. The IT platform allows us to track the funds as they are going in, as they go through the regulated structures, and as they are invested in the projects. The corporate governance and decision-making processes in our investment part have been designed so that the technical specialists, the operators, the communities, and the governments can be consulted, and that they have an impact on the ultimate outcome. Those components decrease the operational and investment risk, which is particularly important for a nascent fund, and to a level that has not been seen in the impact finance area. Secondly, the scale. The fund and everything around it is prepared for a rapid scale-up, which will allow us to manage the large projects that are in our pipeline. We have access to projects that are of unprecedented scale, with not only our own pipeline, but also we're joining forces with partners who are bringing their own projects that very often have been very mature projects, very well researched, and now available for funding. So this is a way for us to resolve the ever-persistent question and problem of availability of bankable projects. The higher cost efficiency of larger projects translates also to higher returns. Thirdly, the impact-oriented investment strategy, whereby we are going to invest in carbon credit generating projects around the world in the most important geographic areas, both in the blue economy and the green economy. We're going to, on top of this, invest in the equity of clean tech companies with leading technologies which will enable and support those projects. Finally, the unparalleled risk-return metrics, which are achieved through the leverage from other funding sources. We have spoken about this in detail during the last presentations. We expect that those unique advantages will turn this asset class into an institutional asset class, which is acceptable for investors of the highest caliber, including pension funds and insurance companies that are very interested in the outcome of this social problem. Soon, we're also going to launch the last element of this platform, of our platform, which will allow us to disperse the funds into the hands of members of communities who are working and benefiting from our projects. We will provide fair and accessible financial services to those unbanked communities, allowing them to earn, save, spend, and participate in the global economy. For this, we will create an unusually low transaction cost and ultimate traceability of funds up until its ultimate beneficiary. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this very much financial overview of what we are doing, more from the financial perspective. And actually, you can see basically that this fund is able to attract unprecedented number of institutional investors, which is for the first time fund quite a challenge normally. But in this very particular context, having our planet at the edge, it should and it will be possible. Showing a little bit of the network, we are trying not to show off, but definitely Paul Halters would be somebody which we would show off with. Paul has been around NOAA for many years. How many years, Frederick? Last 7 years? From the beginning. Paul is the only person alive I know who went to all CAPs, from CAP 1 to the end, till the last one, and most probably this one as well. He's based in Hawaii, is traveling all over the world, and of course he's a surfer, that's for sure. Paul Haltus is the president and founding member of World Ocean Council, organization which focuses on the corporate ocean responsibility by bringing together ocean industries and address shared marine environmental issues. Paul Haltus, president of WOC.
Thanks. Thanks very much, Paul. And congratulations to Frederick and everyone here with the progress being made. And this is an auspicious occasion, and we both just had our birthdays a couple of days ago, Frederick and I. And so, in fact, I'd like to start off by saying, in fact, I was involved in COP0. And I'll tell you a story in a minute that relates to that, but maybe we can just get the slides to get started. Let's try again. There we go. Let me go right to the key messages that I'll let you read, but I'm going to tell you, and most of these we've covered already, so I'll let you read that, but I want to tell you a story. The first time I was here on the UN campus here in Geneva was in 1990. I was with the UN Environment Program at the time, and I was with the South Pacific Regional Environment Program, assigned to help the 22 independent Pacific Island countries start to understand and work with the global movement towards developing the UNFCCC. And that was, 1990 was the 10-yearly World Climate Conference, and the final session of negotiations for what became the Framework Convention on Climate Change, the UNFCCC. So that's why I say it was COP0, because the COP process hadn't even started then. And as part of that, the events in 1990 around that final negotiations was a major sort of conference here in the Grand Palais, I think it's called, the old building here on the grounds, that involved the Prime Minister of the UK, Margaret Thatcher, the Prime Minister of France, Prime Minister Rocard, King Hussein, and some other heads of state, including a friend of mine, Prime Minister of Bikini Panayu, Prime Minister of Tuvalu. So I want you to look at this ceiling, because this is what he did and we agreed during his speech in 1990. Look at this ceiling. Imagine that the highest point in your country is actually less high than this ceiling. And this is what is the situation in Tuvalu. And it's a bit personal because I actually, in 1980, on a field project for UNDP, when we were doing the first inventory of the resources of Tuvalu, I was the person that measured the highest point in the country at 8 meters above sea level. And if you want to make sea level rise and climate change feel real, I had the experience then of talking to people because a major cyclone had hit Tuvalu about 3 years before. People who had climbed coconut trees and tied themselves to those trees with their kids to keep from being swept to their deaths. This is the reality of climate change and sea level rise in small island countries. So look at that. That's the highest point, higher than the highest point in many countries in the world, the atoll countries. And this is what our challenge is, to work here together to really tackle this problem. And that was in 1990 that we were collectively, as a global society, with the UN, finalizing the UN Climate Change Convention to start. And we have, at COP28, we still have a lot of work to do. So these key issues here, I think we've covered a lot of them already. I won't go into detail here. We've talked about the funding needs, and these are issues that I hear. And so I prepared this list before knowing what everyone else was going to cover. This is what I hear in my role as the President and CEO of the World Ocean Council, which I'll mention a bit more about in a minute. So the funding, the need for blended finance, some great examples here with NOAA and with UNWTO about how we're moving forward with that, really bringing together a pipeline, the kind of the mythical holy grail of the pipeline, the project pipeline for bankable projects. I think with what's happening here today, what we're hearing about today, is really going to make a huge difference in achieving that. Particularly for us at the World Ocean Council, changing business practices so that we're focusing on best practices to implement what we call corporate ocean responsibility and sustainable ocean development. The partnerships we've heard so much about here that NOAA is bringing together, and we need more of them, and this is going to be, I think, really a guiding example of what NOAA is achieving here with NOAA Regen. The impact measurement framework, a key part of what has come out of our work with creating a global ocean investment platform, and I think what's being developed here will really lead to that focus on ocean ESG principles and practices and metrics. And most importantly is the need for leadership. And I think if nothing else comes out from the team here at NOAA Regen and from the UNWTO is the need for leadership and partnerships. And that's what I really believe that the Replanet ecosystem and marketplaces are going to be delivering. So let me just back up and spend just a couple of minutes to really give you a sense of the big picture of the ocean. This is the world that we operate in at the World Ocean Council, and myself as an ocean guy my whole life. We've got this growing multiple ocean use, all of these different sectors, the growing intensity, frequency, geographic extent of all of these uses, and tourism certainly being the biggest single sector using the ocean, but there are many other users out there. Look at this map of the Irish Sea between Ireland and the UK. This is how busy the ocean is. And many parts of the world, maybe not quite this intense, but certainly coastal areas and around islands, it's this busy. This is our challenge. How do we work with all this to ensure we have sustainable ocean development, livelihoods, healthy ecosystems, and communities that can thrive in these sort of situations? If you scale that out to the globe, this is just a few examples of what those maps would look like for different sectors. So all of you that are on your phones or connecting right now, you're part of the ocean ecosystem from right here in Geneva. 98% of international internet traffic goes via submarine cable. This is what the world looks like if we look at the ecosystem of the ocean. As big as it is, 71% of the planet, all of it is impacted by human activities to one degree or another. And this map, the red parts of this map are becoming even more evident as the data comes in. So what we do at the World Ocean Council, we are the only private sector-led, developed and led business organization, business investment innovation community for ocean sustainable development, or as I say, we call corporate ocean responsibility. We have leadership companies and investment firms and SMEs from across all of the sectors from around the world working together to provide that kind of leadership. It's a great fit for NOAA Regen and for the Replanet movement here. And so we're very happy and proud to be a partner and bring our network of some 35,000 plus stakeholders from the private sector into this and bring them together, bring people together at the Global Blue Finance Summit, amongst other ways in which we convene the private sector around ocean sustainable development. And lastly, let me just focus on what we call our ocean investment platform. And this, I think, is really critical to the success of what NOAA Regen is doing and what UNWTO is doing. And it's got to start with the issues. What is the problem that needs to be fixed? And then link particularly incentives, but especially to the industry, the market for the solutions. As Zoritza was saying, it's the private sector that's undertaking the activities that creates the impacts, but also needs to be driving and delivering the solutions. Some of those solutions we need innovation for, and we certainly need the investment community, as you've heard many times today, to bring together the private sector investor with the public sector, and this important point that's come up again and again, de-risking. and the role of the partnerships with national governments, with international lending agencies, and others to de-risk so that we can achieve that blended finance to deliver the impact we need in the ocean. I won't go into these in detail. There's a whole series of priorities that have come up over the last 20, 25 years that I've been working to pull together the ocean private sector. These are some of them. I've highlighted a few, but all of these are areas for which partnerships, leadership, and investment is needed. And NOAA Regen is really going to be a key player in following through on this, particularly with a focus on climate change, climate, ocean, biodiversity, and islands. That nexus is so critical to what we all need to do together. And I'll just finish by adding to the graph that Zorica was showing about blue carbon being 10 times greater than land-based carbon, blue carbon climate carbon sequestration potential being 10 times what it is on land. Another 100 times that is what the open ocean can do. It is our only gigaton scale carbon sequestration opportunity on the planet in terms of nature-based solutions. So that ocean piece of solving our climate problem is critical, and we need the investment to make that happen and work with the enterprises that are building that. So I will stop there, and again, congratulations to Fred and the whole NOAA Regen team, and for Zorica and UNWTO for what we're doing here together. We really need to get on with the job and make this happen. Thank you.
Yeah. Paul, it's quite impressive again to see that another organization is not only saying that it's actively supporting NOAA Regen ecosystem and Replanet Capital, but also making 35,000 members network available for the ecosystem and NOAA Regen blended finance platform to talk to. Thank you very much for this this commitment on stage, and you now can see actually how partnerships and why I made decision in 48 hours to really join NOAA and move on with this as a main purpose in the business. Thank you very much for that, Paul. Just to show you the power of the ecosystem and how quickly grows, is I would like to present to you two companies which basically joining the NOAA Replanet Capital ecosystem network just because they understand the same thing. This is the entity which is able to move the world to the next level, and they bet on it like many other players. Let me introduce a guest from United Kingdom, who is chief engineer at Kepler Carbon Recapture, who has a goal to design and build the most versatile underwater systems for recreation and commercial operations. This is a very clear applicability of the system and of the possible partnership we can make together with Kepler Carbon Recapture. Warm welcome to Christopher Barrett.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Can we get the right slides up? Basically, I'm here today to present to you, one, my project, but also how it fits within the new Replanet ecosystem that I've been so graciously being invited into. The whole project behind this is designing an innovative approach to an ocean-based renewable energy, carbon dioxide removal, water production, and brine mineral extraction from seawater. We're a group of scientists and engineers. As such, we don't have access to the funds required to actually pull a project of this magnitude off. We need a system that we can actually operate within, and Replanet does exactly that. It actually gives us not just the financial framework, but also access to a regulatory framework, assistance with governments, with other agencies, enabling us to actually make this project a reality. An example of the difficulties small organizations such as Kepler Recapture faces, for our prototyping, we need to get 400,000 just so we can just finish our simulations and lab work. We need another 2 million to build our prototype that we can then start getting our systems actually demonstrating that they work. A further 2 to 4 million on top of that, just to get it into the ocean to demonstrate to people so people can actually see it, it works, it's real. Replanet actually gives us the ability to turn that into a reality. So this is what we're building. Okay? Nice big platforms. Okay? Capable of producing lots of clean energy at gigawatt scale. Capable of actually reaching and hitting the gigaton level that we require for our carbon removal. We're probably the only company in existence right now that can actually do carbon capture at gigaton scale because of the way we're actually doing this. It's also about building up the ability to build ecosystems that are floating to reinforce the natural ecosystems that already exist in the ocean by playing with the natural cycle that already exists. Okay. How does it work? Mainstay of it is ocean thermal energy conversion. The ocean is just a giant thermal engine. Warm water at the top, cold water down the bottom, little magic, engineering magic in the middle, we get some electricity out of it. The outside of that, we get the water going in where we can then split the water into fresh water, brine, and also remove the carbon dioxide from it at the same time. We then get 3 product streams: fresh water, carbon products, and brine minerals. And lithium is actually quite abundant in those in that brine, along with quite of the other minerals that are required that are after with deep sea mining. They're all there. They're floating around in the ocean. We don't need to vacuum up the bottom of the ocean. How it's working? As I said before, Replanet gives us that framework. Replanet gives us the ability to actually do this. We're too small. We're tiny. We're just a bunch of scientists and engineers with a great idea. We're not bankers. We're not millionaires. We're not, we don't have those funds. We need someone to help us out. Government systems proving to be a bit inadequate, slow moving. We need something that can move fast, and Replanet can do just that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you for this showcase of Replanet, possible investment as soon as we are going to deploy. This is something which could grow to a fantastic partnership and investment for Replanet and for yourself, of course, scaling it up to the global level. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce another speaker. So it will be quite short, but quite powerful, because the speaker who is right to me is actually a very experienced businessman and a very experienced clean tech investor and very experienced global projects driver, you can say. You are involved in several large-scale global projects, including 1 billion trees in Mongolia and projects in Palau. I'm quite interested how you see the possible cooperation and synergies between Replanet Capital and your company, Christoph Abel.
Thanks very much, Paul, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Very happy to be here today and kind of see, answered your question, Paul, on how we can plug into the NOAA ecosystem as a company that's, as was mentioned, really shares the values and the, I think, the thought process of what NOAA has been doing, namely to align the economic reality or the economics of climate change with the, let's say, the legacy system, right? If you will, the legacy capitalist system. We are probably at a stage where we cannot, I mean, we're certainly at a stage where we cannot delay this any further, and I think we're driving towards scale in this way. So the company that we're talking about here is TriScale. It's a company that's based out of Singapore and Switzerland, Geneva, and we also have a subsidiary in Uruguay to cover the Latin American market as well. We are focused on or a safe origination of carbon, of other types of ESG products, including biodiversity, renewable energy credits, et cetera, et cetera. So basically the whole bandwidth of what you can expect in this space, and what also was mentioned by the colleagues here at NOAA, going beyond carbon as well. So I don't want to spend too much time on the technology. I think this is very similar to what our friends here have, and that's not necessarily the focus. The focus really that I want to bring today is on the pipeline, on the projects that we can bring also to the table. And Paul already mentioned two of those. We are currently, and this is on a live project with Mongolia, where we have an agreement with the Department of Forestry. In fact, it is and you can check this out, it's the Billion Tree Initiative, and we've been, so we're delivering here the digital infrastructure to originate the carbon, but also going beyond that, including the primary point of this being stopping the desert from encroaching onto the land that in this transitioning economy or society. So it means that we have the product is for sale, the product is ready, but it's also ready for further investment. And this is how I think where we're seeing the scale up of those types of operations is where we see the complementarity with the fund here, with the whole NOAA ecosystem that is, from my perspective, from my experience, exceptionally well thought out. And I'm sure it's going to take a lot of fine-tuning, but I believe the elements are certainly on the table that can make this a great success. I want to just talk about two other big projects here. One is with the Maldives. This is in the proposal stage. We're talking with the central bank, or the, I should say, the monetary authority of the Maldives here, because we have to actually plug into, and this was mentioned as well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a lot of times going to be the CFOs making the decision. That includes that includes the country CFOs, right, who are actually looking at national accounts. And here, just to kind of mention something that's, I believe, really central here, and has been, I think, mentioned briefly by Fred as well, is the collaboration with government. So all of our projects here, the large-scale ones, are country-level, state-level projects. That also means that there is a sovereign backing to those assets, which is helpful when it comes to credibility, and also in terms of the tradability specifically under international arrangements like the Paris Agreement 6, Article 6 type schemes, etc. So Maldives is a big one, and here I think I want to emphasize that our approach there is really to look at the assessment of the ecosystem of this country, the services that the ecosystem of this country is providing to the planet, right? So it's kind of, and actually it was Paul who coined that phrase. I want to give you credit for this. We were in Brussels together at the sort of stock taking for the European Union towards Paris, and Paul said, like, what are you talking about? It's like really kind of ecosystems as a service. And I found this a brilliant way of expressing this, because that's kind of what this is, right? What each jurisdiction brings to the planet, right? And the origination and the assessment of this, and putting a price tag on those intact ecosystems, which the economists among you will recognize as pricing positive externalities in this case, right? The carbon would be the negative externalities, but here we're kind of unlocking a new asset class, in fact, that is what we're trying to achieve here. And I think that plugs into quite seamlessly into the NOAA ecosystem, the NOAA philosophy, and so we're, I could go on in the list of stuff. I don't want to bore you, and we're kind of late in the afternoon already, but there is a lot of additional projects that we are bringing here. They're quite concrete. They're ready to invest, and I'm very excited about this collaboration. And I think we can together we can bring some large-scale to the table. And I think that's really the theme that, for me, is the exciting part, is that we're accelerating and really pushing the needle on this. So thank you very much and I'm very happy that we had the opportunity, also through our colleague Florence, who has been introducing us. But this is one of those moments where you say, guys, how is this even possible that we're meeting at this moment right before you guys launch here and we have this conversation? So I find it's, whatever you believe in terms of like what's going on in the universe, kind of a match made in heaven. So thank you very much, and please go on.
Christoph, thank you very much. I will quote you on the match made in heaven next time. Thank you. So you basically see that the co-investment opportunities we are creating and actually being created overnight with so many organizations of power, including Nomica, and bring years of knowledge and experience in environmental science and project implementation to the Replanet Capital in one go. I'm very, very happy to have you here on stage, Chris, and thank you very much for confirming your availability on co-investment in the ready-to-go projects, which we basically can jump anytime as soon as we are raised money. Thank you very much for that, Chris. Ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, and that's something which we are waiting as a closing part from our side, as the blockchain technology. And Chris also have elements of blockchain technology and understands how important it is to have that element of measurability, traceability, full transparency of all projects we are in. This is it's a fundamental thing for institutional investors, pension funds, but also countries which are jumping now on the boat of NOAA. We have John Franchi and Rupesh Raikundalia from U-World technology company, which is very closely partnered with NOAA region, and actually John Franchi became the CTO recently of Replanet Digital. I would like to present you gentlemen who will basically show you how the blockchain ecosystem works and how far we already are in that level. The stage is yours, gentlemen.
Thank you, and thank you very much for allowing us to be part of this incredible opportunity to facilitate change, drive through innovation, digitization onto the blockchain of the NOAA Regen project, to be part of the NOAA team. No. Sorry. Sorry. Is that better? Yeah, okay. We'll start again. Sorry about that. Thank you very much, everyone, for allowing me to be part of this incredible journey, allowing us to be part of this incredible journey, and to allow us to show you the digitization of the NOAA platforms, the NOAA projects, Think Energy projects, the conversation we've heard through Chris, and the other team members of all the projects that they have coming. The platform allows us to showcase these. Shortly, I'm going to introduce you to my two key people, and they'll be able to show you how the platform works and explain in detail from the financial side of how it works and from the technical side of how it works. How do I get that to? Yeah, next one. Yeah. So, what this shows you is an all-in-one solution for a platform for investing in ocean conservation, regeneration, infrastructure projects, carbon and plastic credits, and humanitarian causes. The alternatives: non-transparent traditional privately provided equity, debt financing, stock exchanges, crowdfunding, grants, and corporate funds. The users, which the platform allows for, is democratizing the process, making the information readily available for all, regardless of the location of where they are. And the innovation that we bring to the table is deployed using Web3 technologies and processes to address the changes of transparent capital deployment and their outcomes. Our platform enables organizations to digitize and create financial tokens for their projects and monitor and track and trace on the blockchain against all any expectations. Real-time information is available to everyone at the start of the process to the end of the project. In investing, issuing, data rooms, monetization, carbon credits, payment solutions, all in the blockchain, created through one platform. I would like to introduce you now to Marcus, who can explain from the financial side how the platform works. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Can we go to the next slide? The ecosystem that's being created, we've broken down into four buckets: what, why, who, and how. The what, the tools to bring social infrastructure, power, water to reality. This is needed. The why, transparency and open process democratizes the process and makes information readily available to everyone. The idea is that a project is done, that information is made available to the citizens or any other investor to understand how it's performing, just to give transparency to everyone. The who, NOAA catalyzes the process through origination, means that they bring everyone together to become the gel to form the project's financings or any sort of financing around it. The UWorld platform facilitates live information distribution. Rapid provides the UWorld platform with pricing and creates liquidity in conjunction with Replanet Capital, meaning that there is the ability for the suppliers of carbon credits to know their worth and what they're worth at that time, monetize them for the deposits of the projects, and then the capital structures can be provided against the projects going forward. How? By releasing the capital from the carbon credits, it provides the stimulation of equity. Private equity is very expensive. The release of this type of carbon credits for them reduces the per unit cost, which creates additionality throughout the whole structure and makes per unit's cost much more affordable. The win. This is bringing the public and private sectors together for financing and money. The process of bringing asset monetization through the blockchain and digital tokens allows these funds to stimulate the implementation of social infrastructure. Meaning, bringing them together, these guys can help bring the capital needed. And it was interesting, it was introduced by, I cannot remember your name, David, I think it was earlier today, is it can help the stimulation of the projects to make sure that they're brought to bankability and financial close, which is what's missing so much in all of the emerging and developing economies. It becomes a win for everyone. Through the use of project finance and export credit support, long duration financing solutions can be achieved. The win is that there is a reduction in per unit costs while the sponsor country region maintains ownership and control of the asset. I think this is paramount, is that they maintain the control of the asset to maximize the utility of it for their regional economy at a micro level. Additional benefits in this methodology create substantial additionality and benefits at both the grassroots and macro level, the macro level being global financing that can participate to allow this to happen on a transparent basis. This generates consistent and reasonable returns for capital providers, stimulates the attraction of additional capital whilst providing a diversified global portfolio to investors. UWorld facilitates the democratization and aggregation of the information to support the growth and sustainability for financial investors. Replanet Capital will be one of the core financial aggregators of this to make sure that it's distributed to the appropriate investors over time. Rupesh, I'll hand it on to you then.
Good afternoon. As UWorld, we're delighted to be working with NOAA and the Replanet project. Now, you will have developed Aquasphere.ai. We do this in conjunction with Kudo. Kudo are a sustainable cloud-based solution. They provide a cloud platform, and they invest in carbon credits to make sure that they're completely carbon neutral. We also partner with people like Zafira Technologies, who provide satellite images, and that kind of keeps our platform on the cutting edge. Now, in this example, in order for us to be able to log into our platform, I'm just going to take you through a quick whistle-top store. You need to be an accredited investor. That's specific to the Aquasphere.ai solution because it's working with NOAA. Once you're logged into the platform, you'll find that there's a number of projects that are available. So you can see, for example, the Antigua project, the Replanet project, and the one we're going to pick on today is Think Energy. Now, Think Energy is an interesting one. It's transformative, and we've tokenized that particular project onto the blockchain. So what they do is they provide D3 diesel. And the interesting, they hit all of the 17 United Nations SDGs. So when you've clicked or when you've selected a project you want to look at, you can go into the main page. You can see that there's a standard opening. It gives you the overview of the actual project. If you scroll further down, you'll see how exactly these SDGs are going to be hit. So you can see all the SDGs and how they rate themselves. And obviously, this will be ratified further by NOAA and the people behind them. So by clicking on some of these SDGs, you'll get a bit more information. So they can see, in this scenario, you can see one of those been clicked, and there's more to show there. I'll run through those. Now, because obviously we have different project types and different asset types, each project and asset type is unique. In this particular scenario, you can see that we've got a carbon credit rating. There are other different counters that just sort of show you how that project measures up against other projects within the same class. Right. All the information about the project is fully digitized, and it's all kept in one place. In this example, for example, you have an overview, all the documents related to that project, so the beneficiaries and the issuers will put all that information out there. If there's any media or any specific, for example, pictures or videos, they're all available with some further information. Importantly, the actual leadership of the project is also visible, and we think this is key because obviously people make projects, not just the actual projects themselves. In the expected timelines, they're all out there, and also the cap table. So for example, who's invested in the project, what's the size of it, and where are we right now. When you get to the point where you want to invest in a project, you can select different currencies. So, for example, there's Bitcoin, Ethereum, USDT, et cetera. Once you've decided that you want to purchase, it'll take you through the whole process. And then you can see that you'll place the order, that'll go in the order book. Once it's confirmed, the actual token will end up inside your wallet. Now, this is the bit where the blockchain really comes in brilliantly. All those processes are tracked, monitored live, and they're transparent. So you can use a third-party Explorer tool, and you can see that these transactions actually happened. Click on it working. There you go. Okay, right. So when you're a project issuer, you have your own dashboard, and you can manage your project and see how it's performing, and it can add updates straight from within the dashboard itself. And we encourage the community of people to actually get involved. So we have a full voting system inside that that allows other people to have their voice heard and to gather polls. And that's our quick whistle-top tour of Aquasphere.ai.
Yeah, thank you, Rupesh. Thank you, the team, UWorld team, for making it possible and being part of this journey with NOAA, knowing that basically the projects which are coming in will be tokenized, will be run through blockchain, with full transparency, with every single cent being traceable, especially very important at the moment when you get into circular economy and reinvest funds into the local communities and countries. So they are reinvested in the right way, in the engagement of local communities, who are guards for these projects. And if you had ever a failure of these projects, they depend on the disembarkment, disengagement of local communities, which we definitely do in the opposite way. We engage them, making it all traceable, measurable. Ladies and gentlemen, we are getting to the end. We are actually very happy to have you here still. And if we have 3 closing remarks at this end, one coming from Frederick and 2 other coming from our honorable guests.
So just a comment linked to the digital platform. So as I said at the introduction, we are already agency helping Panama, Antigua and Barbuda. We are now scaling up with subnational authorities in the overall Latin America. We have here in the room people coming from African countries wishing to understand the toolkit to be scalable for Africa. We have partners coming from with projects from different parts of Asia, and the idea is to go for global impact. So that digital platform is the way to scale up. We are helping countries to unlock new revenue sources. We are now starting to talk to many countries around the world, and without such a platform to monitor all of it, the global impact is not going to be able to reach the level that we're looking for. So that's the reason why we are now empowering the Replanet ecosystem with Replanet Digital.
Thank you very much for this clarification, Frederick. Ladies and gentlemen, let me have the honor again to invite for a closing remark His Excellency, the Permanent Representative on Grenada, and also the Vice Chairman and Principal Investor at NOAA Region Group, which should not be forgotten, Mr. George Cohen.
I first of all want to tell you that I have a good news. My speech is not going to be long, and I will try not to bother you with a long story. I will make it short. I am in the business since always, 50 years of business. I started in and I made a big part of my career in software, IT, in one of the biggest companies of the world, which was Capgemini, who have been a technician, basic technician, and after commercial, then after director of the commerce. Then later on, at 28 years old, I became CEO, and at 32, I became chairman, which was young. And what was funny is that I am self-educated, self-made man, and I never graduate. And Capgemini is known of being only engineer from school, class A, all being very graduated, and I haven't passed my baccalaureate. But I performed very quick in my career. I stayed in Capgemini 4 years as a chairman. Then I left. I created Transiciel, which was my own company, because being chairman as salary chairman, even if I had a stock option, that doesn't make a big performance, you know, after you pay your your tax and all the necessary for your family, it doesn't give you the opportunity to have any assets at the end. So I resigned. I was 36 years old, and I create my own company called Transiciel, which was a French company in the beginning and afterward was European. It have been a fast-track project because 8 years after the launching of the company, I became public and I made an IPO, which was successful, very, very successful. The IPO was done at the double of the price that we was asking, not listed, you know, for 3 weeks. For 3 weeks it was demanding, impossible to get a quotations. And finally, the price of introduction was a double of what we was expecting. And what we was expecting was already something which I pinch myself every day to say that's not possible. This company have been created from scratch 8 years ago, you know, cannot make so much money. But at the end, it did it. Just to make a long story short, the company, 10 years after the creation, we was 15,000 engineers. The company evaluated by the stock exchange at 3.2 billion. That was in 2000, so 23 years ago. I had, at this period of time, 87% of the shares. So I never sold any shares, you know, in the beginning. And one day, finally, one of the bankers came to see me and said, hey, you know, Mr. Cohen, you still have some debt personally. You should sell some shares, you know, it's there for this. And you will see, if you pull on the jackpot, you will have it cash. I thought about it for a few days, and I said, okay, I will try. I pull, and he made me a check of 500 million euro in 10 minutes, which was the timing, you know, at 5 o'clock in the evening when the market is closing. HSBC put the shares on the market, and I made a block, and the first block was 500 million for somebody who was in debt since all my life, you know, who had never any money. It was quite a good surprise. I look at that check, you know, and just for the story, the CFO of the bank of HSBC was looking at me. We was at the notary office. He gave me the check, and he said to me, I can see that you took that check, but did you think about investing it somewhere, putting it somewhere? I said, no, I'm so surprised, you know. Finally, he said to me, you should go at HSBC in the bank and reinvest this money in this size. And this was on Friday. On Monday morning, I went from Paris, where the IPO was done, to London. And I called the branch office of HSBC, and the director of the branch said to me, you should come if you want to deposit the 500 million. No problem, welcome. But you will have to queue up. Queue up? Yeah, actually we have quite a lot of people, you know, so you will have to wait a bit, you know. I said to him, okay, I put down the telephone. I called the chairman of HSBC World, and I said, hey, your branch manager want to make me queue up to bring him 500 million who come from you. You know, it's a bank check from HSBC to HSBC. And he's telling me that I have about this mass of papers to fill, you know, explaining who is my mother, who is my father, what my rates of albumin, you know, crazy, but whatever. Finally, I put my money at Société Générale. Why I'm saying to all of this, you know, I've been a serial entrepreneur all my life. I had many opportunities, always somewhere in the technology. For example, one of my investment was to be a distributor in France of gas, because Gaz de France had the monopoly, and they lost their monopoly because of Europe, not accepting that the government keeps the monopoly of distributing electricity and gas. Me, I choose the gas instead of electricity. I obtained a license, and it was quite a successful operation, because the first year of this company, it was called Altergas, which I was the founder. The first year we did 60 million euro of revenue. The second year we did 660 million euro of revenue. And the third year we did more than 1.2 billion euro. Starting from nothing. Today is the number 2 in France in distribution of gas, of course behind Gaz de France, who obtained also a license. But I'm proud to say that in 3 years' time, I cooperate and had a good initiative, you know, to take this license and start this business. So this is just to explain to you that I am a serial entrepreneur. I've not always been successful, but most of the time I made a good choice. And I chose NOAA 5 years ago because I met many times since 8 years. I'm meeting Frédéric, who mentioned a few projects, and I was wanting to, after being, you know, in capital, quite successful as a business angel, I said to myself, you know, I have 5 children, 14 grandchildren, probably like some of you. And I said to myself, I have to do something in this planet because this planet is going bad. I have invested a lot of money in 2000, when I get my check, you know, in Caribbean, where I acquired an island. And since 25 years, I can tell you that I can see how the climate have changed. Is impacting our ocean, not only the ocean, but also is impacting the number of birds who are coming and landing on my island. I can see that in the sea around us, the wave bring a lot of plastics. There is less and less fish and lobsters, which was 20 years ago, you could catch the lobsters just like this. I said to myself, I have to do something for my children and my grandchildren. And now I will concentrate on trying to impact on something which will be useful for this planet. After this presentation, I want to congratulate you, Frederick, and all your team. I'm sure, and this is my feeling, my perspective, and again, I am in business since 50 years. I believe that NOAA is going to be a great success because we have now the tools which are really, really necessary for the planet. And it's driven by a team which is fantastic. And I don't know how you get all those ideas, but I have to say that when I invested, was not so precise, so clear that it is today. And I think we have a toolkit which will be very, very useful for the economy of this industry. Thank you very much. I said I will not be long. And good luck to NOAA. I will be there and I will continue to support. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's great, His Majesty, His Excellency George Cohen, thank you very much for this heart-warming closing remark. Yes, we all hope this is the real thing, and we hope this will bring the world to the next better chapter. Ladies and gentlemen, the closing remark is on Secretary General, Mr. Zurab Pololikashvili.
Thank you for your time. We at home are looking for universities for our son to send Mr. Cohen. So we will not send him to the university. I think I will send him to you, if I may, for 1 hour, and he will get the equal education for bachelor, for master, and then I will wish him all the best. Thank you to be with us. Having such interesting, important, and successful and supporters, this is what United Nations needs from private sector. So first of all, I want to congratulate all participants for these brilliant ideas, for these emotional and inspirational speeches and presentations, which was needed, as I mentioned from the beginning. This is start. We just started. This is first time when we are sitting together talking about our plans, our ideas, which are not only plans and dreams. It became reality today. This train starting running once you met with Frederick and once I met with Frederick. Also, I was shocked, you know, when he presented this presentation about this, I call it rebus. You know, I didn't understand. I called to Zorica. Zorica, help me. what does he want from us? I mean, and then this is how we started, and this train is running. There are many things we can do. I was thinking that the countries like which has an ocean. Just talking in India, we are going to open an office to be on the ground. Brazil, next in 2 weeks we will open another presential office there. I mean, opening offices it doesn't mean a lot, but yes, it means because we have to. What is our job starting from today, from our perspective? First, that we have to promote this product to our member states. We have 160 member states. I'm sure that 80% of them, they don't know nothing about this product. We need better marketing, I think, Frederick, together. We have to make concrete roadshows to go to these member states, and there, this is our role, to support you, NOAA, let's say. And why NOAA? Because there are not many NOAAs in this concrete. There's only one NOAA, I think. NOAA, I mean the people who are sitting in this room. If you have more people, please tell them that we are here, and we will be very happy, and we will love to collaborate with them, to talk directly with governments, and to tell them what is NOAA, what we are doing, what you are doing. And this is from one part. The second is to talk and to increase the number of such nice people and companies who want to invest in the future, not only in the business, and to use such kind of excellent, not only speakers, but the people who made successful stories and big stories, and I think it will work. Then I will go to the private sector and to talk with the private sector to attract them. Then the third will be other UN agencies with whom, and first place where I would recommend to go, it's IMO, International Maritime Organization. We have to talk with them. We have excellent relationship with them. And all other entities which are much bigger than we are, with much more money, much more experience, much more networks maybe, networking. And at the end of the day, money is everywhere. There is a lot of money, but there are not projects. There are not trust, and we have to convince everyone to invest in these new initiatives. And last thing, I think, it was mentioned in Zorica's presentation that 1 billion tourists are our clients, let's say, your clients of NOAA. We need propaganda. I never saw, talking about plastic initiatives or green carbons and the other things, I'm traveling a lot, like all of you. I never saw even one advertisement at the plane, never. We can use them and we can promote not only blue carbons and credits, also other products, which are something very new, and that's it. And to have road shows in big capitals and financial cities, not only with oceans. For example, London, Dubai, I don't know, Doha. We have office in Riyadh, you know. Another big development is happening on Red Sea. So these are the places where we can go. With Dominican Republic, which is next door to Antigua, Barbuda, we can be there very easily. So use us, and then we can guarantee to Mr. Cohen and other partners that we will be next to you, as you mentioned in your words. This is our job, this is our duty, and this is our responsibility. Thank you very much for everyone to participating here. I saw many African countries attending, by the way. In Africa, it's another virgin place to be, surrounded by oceans, two oceans, let's say. We have to talk with them. We have to explain what we are talking about. Again, I didn't understand nothing from the first hour meeting, but now I'm here promoting your business. So thank you again, and let's continue this kind of meetings, and wish you all the best. Happy New Year. I'm sure that next year we'll have much more meetings and much more activities together, and wish to you and to your families all the best and best wishes. Thank you.